So how's it going, guys? Thanks for joining us on episode 5 here from the studio at 12 Rivers Realty. I'm Cuatro Kowalski, Andrew Holbrook, and today we have Sammy Lamb. Sammy is, Sammy, what exactly do you do?
I drink wine and I hang out. No, I own Wanderlust Wine Company here in Austin, Texas. It's a new wine concept where we have up to 56 wines on tap that are self-poured. So you guys come in and you pour your own glass of wine. It's like if you're just at home, you know?
It's dangerous.
It is dangerous.
It's dangerous. I'm sure it works well for you.
We have to put some controls in between, you know, so like every 3 glasses you got to check in, walk the line.
Yeah. Do you really?
Yeah.
That's really awesome.
Touch your nose. And
Yeah.
Not that I've ever done that.
Yeah.
But there's some really good drunk dancers out there, and people that can just like walk the line and just be like, no, I'm okay, and you're like,
I've seen your card. I've seen how much you've had to drink.
Well, we'll explore some of that a little bit later, but today we have decided to explore the wonderful world of Merlots, which Holbrook's super excited
I'm a big fan. A disclaimer here, previous episode I was a Debbie Downer about Cabernet.
Which is crazy.
And you can see the smile on my face. I'm really happy about Merlot today.
Well, that's awesome. So let's jump right into it. What are we starting with today?
This is a pretty awesome way to start out. It's a Duckhorn Merlot, Napa Valley. This is an iconic wine of Napa Valley. Dan and Margaret Duckhorn started this. I believe it was a 10-acre property to begin with in St. Helena, which I believe is right in the middle of Napa. We'll put it up there. I'm probably wrong. It's probably way up there or something like that.
It's in Napa.
Sammy might know. It's in Napa. That's what's important. They built it over the last 20 years.
They built it up.
Let me think that. I think they started in 78 or 79 is when Duckhorn started. But it's super classic wine. It is now, I think, they have total 70 acres under the vine. They have a couple of pretty famous wines. They came out with a wine called The Discussion in 2006, which is their super high-end stuff. Mm-hmm. Most of their wines are blends. So we're drinking a Merlot here.
Is it 100% Merlot?
It's not. This one happens to be 80% Merlot. I'm going to cheat. 16% Cab Sauv, 2.5 Cab Franc, 1% Petit Verdot, 0.5% Malbec. 100% French Oak, 40% New, 60% neutral.
So something cool about Duckhorn is they name all their wines after different ducks. Right?
Yeah. It's also a really cool place to taste.
Oh, dude,
we'll put a picture.
Their tasting room is
Their
awesome.
tasting room is, it's super beautiful.
It looks like an old hunting, it's a new hunting lodge.
Yeah, it's a little cottage-looking thing, but it's basically completely gutted on the inside, and they have a glass cellar on the inside. We'll throw some pictures up there. I've been a few tastings there.
So, not to interrupt, but I'm thirsty.
Okay,
yes.
I'm thirsty too.
Shall we cheers?
Yeah, cheers.
Of course.
I was learning yesterday from Italians that you have to cheers under your guest, and man, it was a challenge because they know about this.
I feel like a break.
Yeah.
But why?
So he was telling me. I mean,
the guy does your food truck or
No. I went to it's Italian Cucina.
Oh yeah.
Man, it's a cool guy, and like the whole atmosphere was great. But he was like, "Oh, you gotta always cheers under."
But why?
And it's kind of like a sign of respect.
Oh.
But it also, he was like referring it to when you go on a date too. You know, this is like, I don't like you. I think I'm above you. This is like, man, I kind of like you. And then you go, it's like, I really like this date. I'm ready for another date.
Wow.
I was like, okay, I haven't been out much. Quarantine hasn't really helped, but
I think it probably has something to do with where you put your lips on the glass.
Yes.
And a sign of respect is you don't want to touch lips, so you do it underneath, kind of like keeping their glass clean.
Yeah.
That would be my hypothesis.
Insert mind blown.
And then it was the fact that you just like always have to be looking at them And it becomes like this staring game because you're just like,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, I think of these games.
What is it, like 7 years bad luck or something
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you look away?
7 years of bad sex. So
Bad
I'm on
sex,
year
yeah.
6. Let me
Bad
tell you.
sex.
So you gotta be
You're
careful.
almost out of there. All right, I'll sit this way.
But so these guys are also the ones that produce what? Paradox, Decoy,
Yeah.
and like in a range of them.
Yeah, they have their B labels are really awesome. Decoy for me is like some really good value for the wine.
My wife is a huge Canvasback fan. Their Pinot. But
This is pretty intense for
Yeah.
me. Like, I kind of expected that with a Napa Merlot. I mean, Napa wines tend to be
Yeah, I was gonna.
bigger. I mean, for me, like I could smell the oak immediately off this. I'm getting some
So this will be interesting because
blueberries or blackberries or something.
we're gonna try a ride bank in a bit, and these
Yeah.
guys are kind of ride banking it right here with their blend. So, but from a hotter
No,
Napa. taste.
Yeah, so that's what I'm gonna guess is that.
hang on, what do you mean by right banking it on their blend?
So you got Bordeaux. You got the left bank, then you got the river. I'm gonna butcher it up. One of the G's. It's right there.
Jerome? No, I forget.
There's a big river that cuts in the
Yeah.
middle, and so you
Yeah.
got the left bank and then the right bank. You got the Medoc, which is on the left, and then this is going to be predominantly Cabernet Sauvignon, which is what you were saying you're not a big fan of.
Yeah, I'm just not.
You got the right bank, which is going to have more of that Merlot predominance in the blend, and so they love Merlot. Merlot for a long time was this big grape, and then there was these frosts that affected the Merlot grapes a lot, especially because they bud early. So then for a while they're like, don't replant Merlot. And so then at that point the left kind of broke off and they started making these really nice Cabernet based blends. And then the left was like, the right was like, you know what, we're gonna keep doing what we got. You know, they kept, and even then like the Merlot plantings slowly are decreasing. They're trying to preserve them, but you know, over time you gotta replant. And you got to make some decisions on your blends. But even like Petrus, holy cow, 100% Merlot.
So the Merlot, when you say it's kind of right bankish, it's that they're mimicking the blend of the right
Yeah.
of the wineries on the right bank.
Correct. So there's more Merlot on this blend than there is Cabernet.
Right.
So and the Cabernet is like super minimal, 16%.
And by law, if you're calling it Merlot, it has to be 80% Merlot or 70% Merlot.
It depends on the appellation, but
Yeah.
typically it's 80%.
That's what it would guess,
Typically
yeah.
80%.
So for me, like, this does not taste like it smells. I was expecting this to be in my face.
Yeah.
And I've had this, I don't think I've had 17 before, but I've had their Napa Merlot many times. This is why I like Merlot. There's so much more finesse in Merlot and such, it's more delicate for me. I have rarely tasted a Merlot that just hit me in the face. You probably have.
Oh man, there's some Merlots out there, but you know people just don't. The American market in particular, they don't value. They need more people like you. You know.
Yeah.
Well, I think that movie had a lot to do
Merlot
with it.
producers of America.
what-
Yes.
I'm here for your sponsorship.
What was the movie?
Sideways.
Sideways with Paul Giamatti.
Well, no, if anybody orders Merlot, I'm leaving. I am not drinking any fucking Merlot!
Okay, relax, Miles.
I think that kind of got a lot of people off Merlot. I mean, I'm one of them.
Oh, it's a thing. Like you,
Oh, yeah.
you ask winemakers, and they see a drop in their sales because of that movie.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's a known thing in the wine
Well, and
industry.
I'll tell you that while you kind of poo-pooed cabs last week, I'm not poo-pooing Merlot, but I just never drink it. Like I don't know anything about it, never drink it. My wife isn't a big fan, so consequently we never drink it at home.
You can come over.
Yeah, but I would tend to go with a Napa Cab or something along those lines instead of a Merlot, just because I guess that's what we're down with. But I could see why you would like this. The understatement of the wine is evident.
I mean, like you're talking about the finesse, and I'm excited that you guys. All right, should I talk about the other ones we're gonna have today? Or?
Let's talk about them in a sec.
Okay.
Because it's better to talk about them when we're
As it,
drinking.
okay.
Yeah.
So Merlot in itself can. I mean, Merlot is a cousin of Cabernet Sauvignon,
No
and
kidding.
their daddy is Cabernet Franc. I mean, Cabernet Franc got around pretty much, you know. You did Cabernet Sauvignon, he got Merlot, and so they have so many shared similarities, and so that's why like the right bank, left bank comparison sometimes are like, no, ours is better or ours has this, but they're very similar. And one of the things, main differentiating points from Merlot to Cabernet is that this one has less tannins, even though you can like clearly taste them right now.
Right.
And then it has just normally higher elevated alcohol. So this is where you got to be careful because, you know, like Napa, it's so hot already. Yeah, what percentage is it? Probably like a 14.5?
14.5. Wow.
Jesus.
Way to go, Sammy.
So it's like, you know, you have a really warm climate, you're going to have this jamminess, this high alcohol, and it might take away from the pleasure of it. And so you got to really work on that finesse. And once you find that perfect Merlot, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
So would you say that Merlots should be drank or with food, or they should be enjoyed by themselves? Like, are they food wines or are they table wines?
I mean,
so to speak.
Depends on what the
Whose
setting
house
is,
and what
yeah.
table? For me, I
both.
think generally food. I mean,
Yeah.
I think so. Like, some of the same stuff we were talking about with Cab, I still think this goes great with meat. Had
So-
this with some fatty fish before is actually pretty awesome.
Ooh, I could see that.
Yeah.
I think it comes down to the tannins, like, and how approachable they are. Like, if it's really heavy on tannins, typically you're gonna be like, oh, I need something to balance this because it's
Sure.
really intense,
Sure.
and you're just like, you getting that dry mouth. So
Yeah.
I'm
But-
not getting. This feels like balanced tannins to me. Like I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not puckering up, but they're there. You know.
Well, we opened this about 30 minutes before we started shooting.
We did.
Yes.
Good to know.
But, okay, I opened it. But I didn't decant it or, you know, double, anything like that. I just opened it and let it breathe. Would it benefit from decanting?
I would say so for sure. It's definitely a young wine, so you can help it kind of just open up a little bit. It's a 17, so for sure. But I also brushed my teeth like an hour before this, so my like perception of the tannins are like,
Yeah.
you know. I made a cardinal mistake of like brushing your teeth and showering before it tastes.
Yeah,
but-
we appreciate the showering part. Like, I know it's a weekly occurrence for you, Sam.
yeah, I
so-
know. It's like,
We
when
got
is
it
this
on a good
Wednesday?
day.
Jesus, that's like my one day at Planet Fitness to
That's
get a
good.
shower.
There you
know? Especially
So-
with the restrictions, you know, you can't have more than 10 people there. So.
Yeah.
So what are y'all getting palate-wise on this?
Dark berries, like super ripe blackberries or something like that. Maybe a little raspberry.
A lot of that raspberry for sure.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
A little bit of that floral aspect to it.
Just a little, though.
And some chocolate, like,
Like dark.
but not. Yeah, like bitter chocolate,
Yeah.
not milk
Jinx.
chocolate. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
This is a great example of a Merlot from California.
This is like for me the quintessential Napa Merlot. If any of you are ever fortunate enough to get your hands on some, they have some really awesome single vineyard. Three Palms Vineyard is like super famous estate. I think their 2015 Three Palms Merlot won #1 wine in the world by Wine Spectator a year or two ago, last year I think. I got to taste it.
It's amazing.
It's top 5 Merlots I've ever tasted.
Wow.
Three Palms? Is it
The
what
Three
it's
Palms, yeah, it's amazing. This is just a Napa Valley Merlot,
Right.
which meaning they can pull grapes from here
Any
and
of their
there and whatever,
vineyards,
anything
but
that's
in
inside
Napa.
Napa Valley.
Right.
The Three Palms is like very site specific and for me was much more even more delicate than this. Like
Yeah.
I think this one they're going to appeal to the mass consumers on this.
For sure.
It's also 7x the price for the Three Palms
Sure.
Merlot. You want to splurge? It's a good one. Like, yeah.
So, Sammy, we try and stick around $50 and below for all the wines that we bring on here, just so they're approachable, but still at the upper end of, you know, like a Tuesday night wine. What was the cost on this one? Do you remember?
46, 42,
Dang.
46,
Okay.
something like that.
Okay.
So in the mid 40s.
So it's really great value, I think.
Yeah, I
This-
agree.
This
I
is
agree.
drinking really nice. I could see this. So the more that I've listened to y'all and the more that I tasted, I could see where you could pair this with a nice piece of meat, maybe some wild game,
Pork chop.
or a fatty piece of fish.
Pork chop, yeah.
For people that don't like in-your-face cabs, kind of like what you were
I'm
saying.
your guy. Yeah. I'm your guy.
I think this one offers an amazing performance on the nose. And then on the
Yeah.
palate, like it really makes you salivate. So really having something to eat would be killer. Because I
Yeah.
think this one would be kind of hard for me to drink on my by itself. Because after I'm like, all right, I need some water.
I need,
Yeah.
or I need something to eat.
Yeah, some.
So do you think these guys like? Because I think they just got bought out by Costa Brown, which is like always a 90-point plus
Yeah.
Pinot Noir and stuff.
Costa
And-
Brown bought them out?
Yeah, yeah, and so I think they're.
I would have guessed it'd have been the other way around, to be honest
Or
with
maybe,
you.
maybe, maybe
No,
the other way
it
around.
was
Maybe
the
they
other way
bought.
around.
Oh, did they? So
Yeah,
they
'cause
bought
they-
Costa Brown.
Yeah, 'cause
Costa Brown's small. Like,
They took on like three new labels. I was at Duckhorn 2-3 years ago, and they were showing us the whole portfolio of the wines that they
that
bought.
is interesting because Costa Brown's one of my favorite
Yeah.
Pinot groups. Like their Pinots are amazing. There's Radio Coteau, Costa Brown, William Sellium, all those little. But it's funny you mention that because you're starting to see Costa Brown in Total. You're starting to see it in
HEBs.
HEB, and
Yeah.
I was wondering why that was happening. And that would make a lot of sense that there's something going on.
It gets scary when a big producer.
Well,
buys
I
a
mean,
small
it's
producer,
just
but
nuts how that's happening so much in the
Like, it'd be
wine
a good
world
thing.
right now.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't necessarily
the,
think it's a bad thing. I think
They just pull resources, and then they're like he was saying, they start attacking their own distribution channels, and they're like, we're gonna get you coverage and we're gonna get you exposure.
Absolutely.
But then it's like at some point you need to feed that demand, and now you're like, well,
yeah, when did you get away from making the 10,000 cases that you make every year and that's all you make?
Yeah.
You know, like if you start making wine beyond that, it's like, well, you're having to like actually try to appeal to certain people versus just making the wine that you make and whoever likes to drink
so.
it.
I think this is another show.
Yes, it is. And I get pissed off about this.
And see, I kind of take the opposite stance, which is why I think it'd be a great another show. But yeah. Anyway, let's not to cut you off.
Cut me off. You did a good thing. Yeah. Like,
Let's
good
move
thing.
on to the next one.
Yeah, should we get going?
Yeah.
I'm excited
Down
about
the
this
hatch.
next one.
Look. So, the next wine is a Merlot from Washington, specifically
gonna be
the
good.
Yakima Valley. Generally, I think Washington is putting out some of the best valued wines in the world right now. Why it's this is par for the course. Look at that.
Jeez.
I'm not paying attention. I got excited about the Yakima Merlot. Look at
Jesus
that. Here, let me do this.
We need some cocktail napkins.
Yeah, we do.
Something.
Yeah, we do.
Beach towels.
This is like, I haven't gone one show with perfect pours. So, I'm not going to call Washington like a emerging wine scene because it's not. It's been around since the late 70s, I think. But a brief overview of Washington wines. Up here, there's 5 AVAs, 120 wineries. So it's still a relatively like smaller wine producing area.
And I hear that it's kind of like driving through High or Texas or Fredericksburg in Texas, to where the wineries are all like on the highway. You can just stop and pull over, and like you don't have to. Some wineries in Napa, you have to like
go down a dirt road,
Yeah,
up a hill,
go look
over
at
a
it.
hill, jump on the tractor, take a zip line.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't
It's
know.
fairly accessible.
Right.
There's 5 AVAs. Columbia Valley is probably the most famous one. Yakima is inside the Columbia Valley. The Yakima Valley's 10 degrees cooler-ish on average than Columbia Valley. Kind of the popular AVAs in around the area, Rattlesnake Hills and Horsehaven Hills, the sub-AVAs of that area. There's some really amazing wines coming off Horsehaven Hills, excuse me. But generally you'll see it's in southern Washington, kind of close to the Oregon border. So you can imagine what the climate there is going to be like: cooler nights, fresh days.
Well, it's everybody thinks of Washington, they think of Seattle and all the rain that they get, but that's just that small portion of Washington. Then you get the more arid,
deserty almost. Yeah.
And that's the other side of the state, which is where these grapes really thrive.
Mm-hmm. And in this area, most of the grapes, Cab, Merlot, Syrah is a big one coming out of Washington. Riesling I've had out of there, Chard. They're kind of the big ones that are coming out of the area. This particular wine, Sheridan Mystique, the guy's been around since the 90s, mid-90s, 95, 96. His name's Scott. I forget his last name. He's sustainable farmer, which I think is really cool. I mean, there's all these, we'll do a show on this, but there's biodynamic, sustainable, organic, all these things. But he's a sustainable producer. It's become a fairly big winery now, 76 acres on top of a hill. So because of the super cooling in the area in the evenings, like the fog will settle in the valley. So the really good wines, like you see in a lot of the world in Burgundy and elsewhere, like they're not grown on the floor of the valley. Like you have frost problems and that kind of stuff. They're grown 500 feet, 1,000 feet, 1,500 feet up mountains. This is a perfect example of this.
Yeah, this is a phenomenal Merlot.
Yeah?
This is really good. Cheers, one more time. Oh,
wow.
got it under. Got it under.
Got it.
Oh, damn.
Like one of these times I'm coming over the top. Yeah, take the top.
Man, that nose is amazing.
So you were saying this guy might be doing some organic or biodynamic work?
So I know, like, I did a little bit of homework, and he's saying fully sustainable right now. Okay. I don't know why. You know, I'm sure everybody has a reason to not move into organic and biodynamic. I'm sure it's costly for one.
For sure, yeah.
But I appreciate farmers that are trying to do something who at least be environmentally neutral on things, which I think is what sustainable means.
Yeah.
Like, so.
They don't. Yeah, they're trying to make a product that obviously doesn't have a lot of effects on the environment or on the people that they're working with. You know, on the workers that are helping harvest or maintain these vineyards. But like right off the bat, when you said that, I was like, man, it makes sense. So there's a little bit of funk coming out right off the nose. Then it blows off a little bit, starts really opening up.
Absolutely.
And this is a Merlot's that you were talking about. I mean, so like compared to Duckhorn, this just offers something on the nose and on the palate. Like on the palate, you get extreme amounts of fruit, a little bit riper too.
Yeah, much riper.
Oh my God. And the alcohol is like at least disguised a little bit with everything going on, which is...
And there's some spice on the nose too. Like, I don't know, for those pyrazines that we've talked about it several times on different episodes, but I always go back to Cab Franc. I mean, now we know that slutty Cab Franc.
Yeah, it's a family reunion look from the blend.
Yeah.
It's a blend of Cab Sauv, Merlot, and Cab Franc.
It's not that it probably is a blend. I don't actually know that, but it's that same spiciness that you get from Cab Franc, or at least that I can start to pick up.
And so I was, prior to this, I was like, okay, let me learn a little bit more about Merlot, because like you guys were saying, like people don't really know much about Merlot, including myself prior to this. Even now, I still, like, I'm no expert.
You're a level 2, by the way. We need to bring that up. Sammy's a level 2 sommelier, am I correct? Like,
level 3.
Level 3, which is really hard to do.
We just drink a lot. That's it.
A lot.
So they were talking about how people constantly mistake in different exams Merlot for Cabs, because once again, they're so similar, except for the tannin aspect and then the alcohol aspect. And those are like the major like clues that you can kind of depict and say, all right, this must be a Merlot because this is like extreme. Unless it's like a Cab from Napa and it's like you expect the high alcohol,
right? And
the tannins are going to be more evolved. But you were talking about the spiciness, the green pepperiness. Like I love that, and you can find that in Merlots. And typically, you can find that in Merlots from Washington. Out of like different Merlots that I've tried, Washington State is where you can find.
That's
like,
really good to know.
Really, really complex overall.
I've known for a long time that I like Merlots from Washington, and that helps me know why.
Yeah.
I like a little.
I remember you bought like a
subtle spice.
You came in one day to VineBot and you're like, dude, I just bought a case of this. Try it. And I was like, damn, what is this? And you're like, It's from Washington State. About
Yeah.
a whole case of this. Was it a Merlot?
It was Merlot.
Yeah. Jeez.
So what's the alcohol in this? Because I feel like,
14.1.
yeah.
It's that's not that far. It's 0.4% from the Duckhorn, so it's still higher than it tastes to me. I mean,
Yeah, Napa typically is hotter, but you also have, I think, what is it, 0.25 range where you can kind of fluctuate.
yeah. It's all
Tax
relative.
purposes,
I guess.
tax purposes. But I mean,
that's
they
a
already-
whole nother show. Alcohol percentages and taxes.
But even this one, like compared to the Duckhorn, like if you compare it side to side, the one on Duckhorn is going to be more pronounced, the alcohol, because it's less, I don't know, complex on the palate than it would be on this one, because this one has so much more body, so much more things going on, and so you're just like, whoa. And so it balances out. It kind of disguises it a little bit.
Yeah.
Sheridan. Yakima. Yeah, Yakima's up and coming. Unfortunately, it gets so hot down there that they lose a lot of their crop most of the time because they just they have a bunch of fires throughout the year. But you just get like these really cool wines, and with global warming, like these guys are gonna be top dollar wines in the next few years. I mean, if they can survive the heat, because it's desert climate down there.
So talk to me. What was the price on this?
Yakima.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
I don't.
Was-
Under
did it have a-
$50.
Did it have a 4 in front of it?
I think it was 38.
Oh wow. Okay.
Damn.
I think it was, and you find that in Washington wines. You find high quality wines that you really can buy for $20 to $30
Well, I mean,
a bottle.
yeah. I mean, at some point, or at some regards, you're still paying for the name with wine. So with Washington not very well known, I would think you could get higher quality wines for lower price than you can out of California.
For sure,
Yeah.
easily.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever had Washington wine over $100 a bottle.
Wow.
Well, maybe a few, but they're not that often. Like,
Out of the two that we've drank so far, this is definitely my favorite.
yeah, that's good. This is
Yeah,
awesome.
mine too. And you're right. I mean, a lot of times you're paying for the brand. I mean, it's the premium.
Right.
Napa real estate. Oh, speaking about real estate, let's go.
Yeah,
Y'all should invest in
hey.
Dripping Springs. Check these boys out here. Their
There we
links.
go.
He's a
But-
pro. He's a pro.
But real estate's so expensive in Napa that, like, even if I actually was at the Austin Wine Merchant the other day, and they had this awesome closeout on this Napa label, and it was a lady who tried to start her own label, but she was spending so much money in trying to market this because
It's ridiculous, yeah.
her bottles were going for like $80 to $90 a bottle, and then finally they were selling them to me at $15 because she basically was unable to keep the brand alive. And the real estate's expensive, like, you know, using the winemakers down there, they obviously have a premium because you use.
They're celebrity winemakers,
Yeah.
essentially. Yeah.
And then you got to market it because now you're talking about luxury wines, right? Now your
Absolutely.
price point is
Yeah.
at
Before
a
you
minimum
pay for the
$50.
grapes, it's $50 or $60 a bottle. You know.
And this could be why coming under a bigger brand that has a lot more money to be able to support smaller winemakers, smaller boutique winemakers that are doing some great juice is maybe a good thing.
Like the Costa Brown stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you pull your resources together. As long as they don't get corrupted, right? That's the thing. It's
Absolutely.
What's the
they
fine line?
They could
Yeah.
be the next Justin Bieber, and then like finally they'll redeem themselves at some point. But,
Sure,
yeah.
sure. I mean,
But then they can go into bulk production, and then you're like, oh man, there it goes.
They
But
sold
Costa
out.
Brown has like what? They have like Russian River. They've got like a whole
15 or 20.
like
different
Williams
vineyards.
William.
Yeah,
These guys,
yeah.
or Williams. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. It's hard to keep up with the Williams William stuff.
You're just making my mouth salivate. That's all you're doing.
I can't even say it right. I think it's the Merlot's tannins.
yeah. This is great.
Yeah.
This is my number one so far. And I want to try the Pomerol.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I've been thinking
For
about
me,
it.
Pomerol's like the win of all the Merlots.
yes.
You know. Should we chug this and?
Yeah, I just poured.
No.
I just poured, but I'm ready to
Yeah.
move on.
If you just poured it, it means you just got to drink it. You know?
Yeah.
So here's a question while you drink
Chug.
your wine and while we get the Pomerol up. Do Merlots benefit by laying down as much as some of the other bigger wines like Cabs or Bordeaux or?
I mean, Merlot's still a big wine, right? I mean, if you ask me, anything that's in Bordeaux, period, is a bigger wine. But yeah, I mean, you have the same structures, you have the same acids, same tannins, all that kind of stuff that helps with aging. You're level 3 over here.
So one of the prime examples of Merlot has been Petrus. Petrus, you find this for $5,000, $6,000 minimum.
Right.
And these are aged, and the best wine I've ever had was from a buddy who was doing this wine program with me. If you guys are ever bored, it's called the OIV MSc. And so what you do is you travel to 20...
Say that again?
The OIV MSc, so Masters of Science in Wine Management, and it's sponsored through the... it's called the OIV. It's the organization of the International Wine and Vine sector. Yeah.
It's right there.
Is it?
Sure, it is now.
Oh, it's right here. Yeah. I was like, wait, they're here?
Shit.
Uh-oh.
They call me Booger. Don't tell them my real name.
So you do this program and you visit 27 countries in 11 months. And what you do is you sit in these talks with wine producers from all these different regions around the world, and you learn about their business strategy, their winemaking philosophy, and just their philosophy in life. Because obviously you start drinking wine and you're like, all right, let's hang out and chill.
Yeah.
And so one of our colleagues, actually it was the opening night for the full year. We were all doing a blind tasting, and he puts his wine in a decanter, and so we're like, okay, this must be something interesting. So we start trying it, and it was fucking incredible. It was
Just blew you away.
Oh my God! It was a 2000 Petrus.
Oh, come on!
Yeah, it was. It's
$8,000 bottle of wine.
Yeah,
Okay.
but nobody knew
100% Merlot.
because obviously we're all college kids, and so everybody's bringing in whatever they can find from the grocery store that they think is cool or they know of, and then this guy brings in, and so you're like, okay, it must be a nicer wine, but they're just wow, every time I try this, there's another shade of this wine.
Yeah, for 5 minutes. Then you're going in your mouth
And you're just can I get more? He's like, no, just a sip.
Yeah.
And we're 20 people. So
Wow.
So then he reveals it, and we're like, holy cow, this is incredible. And it's
big time wine drinkers don't get to drink that. So let's back it up a little bit. Pomerol, right bank. And if you ever want to know this is how I do it in my small little rat brain. If you want to know what's left bank and right bank, it's in alphabetical order. It's Cabernet and Merlot. So Cab's on the left and Merlot's on the right. Pomerol, specifically one of the smallest appellations in Bordeaux. It's about 150 chateaus in Pomerol. Less than half of them, roughly, have less than 1 hectare. So this is a lot of small micro producers in Pomerol. Probably not as micro-y as Burgundy, but certainly small producers. What I think is really interesting about this snobby French classification system is that there is no one in Pomerol. There is no first growth, second growth. Which I think is really cool for these nouveau winemakers. There's a lot less rules for them to make fantastic wines. You mentioned Petrus, Le Pont, and Lafleur, kind of the other really well-known high-end winemakers in Isagoud. Damn it. I think what you were talking about with Petrus is 100% Merlot. I think part of the reason is these vineyards and chateaus and stuff have been around since 1800s. And so they've had a lot of time to fine-tune their clones, their harvesting, their growing, all these things, and where they're able just to do 100% and don't need as much help.
Yeah. So this is 80% Merlot and 20% Cab Franc.
And Cab Franc, if you guys ever do a Cab Franc show, you gotta bring it back. I love Cab Franc.
It's gonna be 15 bottles though, because I love
I'm down.
Cab Franc.
We're doing an evening set because it'll probably pass out here.
Perfect.
But yeah, this is a blend. Once again, so we've tried Duckhorn, which is more commercial, very straightforward kind of. when the people say like a simple wine doesn't mean it's simple, it's just very straightforward in what it
Right.
offers. So you've got Duckhorn commercial, and then you've got the Sheridan, which is like starting to bring a little bit of that funk, that just more floral and herbaceousness coming out of that Merlot. And then this one, that is insane. Like
It's
peppery, spicy, leafy, like
Leafy
tobacco-y,
is
leathery.
tobacco-y leaf like.
And this one's also aged a little bit, so this is a 13, but this is to show you the diversity of Merlot.
It's also fairly, for me, like from a right bank Merlot, it's still fairly young. I mean,
Yeah.
For me, like the 15 to 20-year-old, is kind of seems to be in the meat of it all.
The tobacco's a
This
good
is
call.
amazing.
Man.
And I'm with Andrew on this, like, right bank, like just the fact that it's Merlot based, like
Yeah.
I prefer those because Cabernets can sometimes be a little bit too tannic. And even like when you see like a Bordeaux Superior or something like this, most of the time you'll try and you're like, ooh, that's like very bitter. Because
Yeah.
then you have the bitterness from the tannins coming out. And these, like even in their entry level stuff, like it's at least a little bit more finessed and more elegant and easy to drink than
Oh man,
a left bank.
that finish is amazing.
It's still going. Like,
Yeah.
Just off the first taste, like.
Man,
So
we all got quiet there, y'all.
yeah, that's
It
a
was
good
that
sign.
good.
That's such a good sign. Like, so, these vineyards are in a
Mushroom,
river.
too.
That they're on the side of a river, and there's bedrock on the side of these rivers, and generally, these vines have to suffer to get through the bedrock to a water source, which makes everything more concentrated, rounded. The average age on these vines is only 30 years. I would not have guessed that. And I think a lot has to do with, and there's a general rule in wine, like the more the roots have to suffer to get to water,
The better the
better
grapes.
your wine's going to
Yeah.
be. Like,
But that's life in general. The more you suffer, the better, more well-rounded character-wise you are.
that is.
So, folks, 2021 is going to be a good year for all of us. And don't forget to check out these
it's like
listings.
very Eastern philosophy of yours there.
well,
like, yeah, like.
Wine does that. I think
Yeah.
wine does that, you know?
Yeah, it brings out a cerebral thing in you after the third or fourth glass.
It is
This is-
honestly like the best beverage in my opinion. I mean, you got like whiskeys, which are also a very nice conversation piece, but nothing beats wine. The fact that it's like,
And you can drink a lot of it. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
relatively speaking, like you have a few whiskeys, and you're feeling it. Like,
yeah.
a few glasses of wine, you just starting to perk up for the day, you know?
I mean, for the day. With my
9:30 a.m., you're feeling great. Like,
I really think this goes well with scrambled eggs and no.
Could.
Those,
with scrambled eggs.
I'm just kidding.
Okay.
No, it actually could with some truffle
I
oil
think
though. Ooh.
Okay,
Man,
so
let's go.
I don't know this to be a fact, but I've heard Merlot and truffles is like a really good quintessential pairing.
I'll
would
step in
second
and
and
say,
third
yeah, truffles really doesn't pair badly with too much.
White wine. I don't like it with white wine as much.
Uh,
It's too much earthiness and did all that business.
Sure, but
Okay, 60-70% of the world's
Okay.
wine. Okay, with red wine. So okay.
Even
So this, when you say truffle, I get some truffle on this.
yeah, the mushroom aspect on this is
Yeah, mushrooms. The
So
forest floor. you
yeah,
know,
forest floor.
yeah.
Yeah.
So when you said truffle, what always comes to mind is the first kitchen I ever worked at. Well, the first nice kitchen I ever worked in was Charlie Trotter's in New York. Or in Chicago. Sorry, it's not there any longer. But I was one of the lowly commis chefs, and I was in charge of unpacking all the orders that we got in. And I remember, and this will stick with me always, one morning we got this case in from France. There was French on the label, and so I called the sous chef, the morning sous chef in,
Excusez-moi.
and he was like, "Oh yeah, that's probably the truffles." Opened it up, and then went about doing his business. So I remember I tore off the whatever, I opened it, and started unpacking all this French newspaper surrounding this packing, and all of a sudden I was hit with this aroma of these white truffles that we
Man,
had,
I wish I was there.
Yeah.
that we had just flown
Damn.
in. And I had never smelled truffles before, just straight up never. I'd known about them, but I'd never smelled them. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks, and it's a smell that I'll never forget. And they're so pungent that our chef de cuisine, who was next door upstairs, came down and was like, "So the truffles got here," because he could smell them. But
Damn.
anyway,
And so there's two types, right? Because you said white truffle. So there's like is that the winter one? What they call a winter one?
There's-
Or no, the summer one?
well, there's two types of truffles. There's the white truffles and the dark truffles, and the white truffles are more prized. They're more expensive.
They're Merlot. I mean, they're more finessed than black truffles. You know, like really,
That was good, folks.
It's a really good Cab and Merlot
Yeah.
difference there.
Yeah.
But this is very evocative of that smell. I mean, as soon as you said it, I was like, something clicked in my brain. I was like, that's it.
Can I ask you a side note here?
Sure.
We can put this on the blooper reel. Was Charlie Trotter's at the time and now Michelin star?
Oh, yeah. So Trotter's was a perennial 3 Michelin. I mean, it was the top of its game back in the day. And it's no longer open. Trotter died a couple of years ago, R.I.P. But it was an amazing experience, and he was ahead of his time. But yeah, 3 Michelin, I think 5 diamond. It was amazing.
If I ever reposition my career, I'd love to be a chef, and that's a hard thing to say. And I'd like to be an architect. And
Those are two totally.
I know.
different
It's some creativity
Yeah.
thing that's in there behind all those professions. It works in real estate actually really well.
Well,
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
this show can evolve to you like learning how to cook and, like trying some things.
I can cook. I can't.
He cooks very well.
Yeah, I can
Yeah,
cook.
I mean, this could be. We bring a crock pot,
Mostly because I like to eat.
one of those teppanyaki things, like right here, just start like making some scrambled eggs with some truffle. And I mean, for our audience here, potentially people that are going to buy some real estate here in Austin. Oh, plug.
Yeah.
Where are some good
Here's our
truffle?
info.
Yeah. Where's like good truffle places to go check out in Austin?
Ooh.
Hop Dottie's, their truffle fries. I
Oh,
don't know if you guys have
Those
tried
are
those.
good. Those are good.
Those are good.
So there's not
Another reason to move here.
That's a great question, because there's not a lot of places that really can afford to import good truffles.
And it's seasonal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're starting to get truffles off the west coast of the states, so like California, Oregon.
Washington State has been like a hot pot right now for
Yeah.
truffle. It's crazy.
But you don't get the true like Italian or French truffles.
I mean,
here.
Italy is the quintessential place, I think, for.
Well, I mean, it depends on who you ask.
Wow.
But if you're talking about old world truffles versus new world truffles,
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have the importation or the shipping costs and blah, blah, blah. But a truffle is a very magical thing. So any of the higher end restaurants, if they ever get truffles in, you want to make sure that you can go.
Red Ash,
Red Ash is great.
shave some truffles for me,
Yeah.
tableside.
Red Ash is sounds like a pizza spot. No.
Northern
No.
Italian
No.
cuisine.
Northern Italian.
Okay.
They do have.
Some of the best.
Do they have pizza there?
I don't think so.
I'm not ordering
Some
pizza
of the-
there if they have it.
Yeah.
Some of the best steaks.
The best red meat I know to get in Austin is at Red Ash.
Yeah.
They do a Florentine steak they have a wood burning grill indoors with proper ventilation in the office building. It's
They also have a really great selection of wines. They're just very,
their wine list is through
very
the roof.
expensive.
And, hey, Alan, good to see you.
Yeah,
Alan's a good friend of mine. He was a tenant recently at one of my rental properties. He's like saw him and runs kind of the front of the house at that place, and
that's awesome.
fantastic fella.
Well, I'll tell you,
fantastic
Red
fella.
Ash is my favorite restaurant, my wife's favorite restaurant. I mean, they do it right. We even got Red Ash to go during COVID,
Really,
and it was still amazing.
to go.
I mean,
It's hard
wow.
to do right now.
Still
Right, yeah.
amazing. No, I mean, we got it home and we were eating it going,
It's awesome.
But
Okay, Red Ash, please send us some lunch.
Yeah.
700
Sponsored by
Rio
Red
Grande. Yeah, like, we are shameless pluggers on this.
Please.
absolutely. But yeah,
Should we walk through the tasting of this just a little bit? We haven't done any tasting notes.
yes, let's do it. Let's do it real fast.
We drank half a glass already.
It's great.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we've talked about it. I do get the tobacco, the truffle aroma, not so much the flavor of truffles. Maybe some leather.
Yeah.
Leather and smoke and all those masculine things. I don't know. It's the wrong term, but
So one of the things that they teach you in Somm school for people out there that kind of want to help improve their ability to describe wines, it's whenever it's a young wine, they typically have more fruit-forward characteristics or floral notes. So things that are very alive or vivid in your glass. So like if it's floral, if it's fruity, if it's herbaceous. But then you start moving to the secondary notes, which might be a little bit of the nuttiness, a little bit of the small notes that arise from development or maturity within the bottle. And then you have tertiary notes, which is what I am getting a lot of this. It's like that, like you were saying, forest floor, leather, tobacco. It's like you start moving from that fresh, vivid, crisp, refreshing, fruit-forward wine to a little bit that's something that's more rustic, more antique, almost in a sense. Like you have this.
it's signature old world. If you ask me, yeah.
So that could be a good way to explain. It's like new world, young, fresh, vivid, to old world, more rustic, old, dusty, smoky, spicy. And this, I think we did it right, fellas. I mean, we went from Duckhorn, Sheridan, to Pomerol. I mean, or Chateau Eau.
You know what?
Maylet.
I want to know is if
Mayayait. I don't know.
you want
It's a tongue twister.
You want me to do my French?
Please.
Chateau Haute Maillet. Pomerol appellation. No, that's not. Let's do that again. Cut.
No, I like that. I think we should. I like it.
And I think overall, once again, even the Merlot factor, I think Pomerols are cheaper than like Medocs and like
Hot Medocs and all those. Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah.
So
Such a value wine.
I think you're right. We did it right because this is now my favorite. The nose on this is not. I would have smelled it and been like, yeah, I'll pass. But once I put it in my mouth, I was like, this is amazing.
Sweet juice.
Yeah.
And it can still age, like you were saying.
Yeah. This
How much longer would you lay it down? I mean, it's 7 years old right now.
Okay, remember we did deductive reasoning in one of the previous shows? Like, I'm going to guess because Total Wine is releasing this, you got a few years at most.
So 5 years?
Yeah, at most.
Yeah.
But I would tell you some of the great Pomerols are 30 and 40 year worthy easily. I mean, Petrus, I think what I read is like the 80s and 90s Petruses are the ones that are drinking perfectly right now are very good or whatever.
I think there's a little bit of greenness coming out from the tannins.
Okay.
That, like
will soften. Yeah,
5-10 years can soften a little bit. But then you never know, right? It's always a gamble because it's like you age it and then maybe it'll smooth or like mellow out on the tannins, but then like the volatile acidity because of age will just overwhelm you. You're like, and if you're not a big fan of that,
you buy by the case. This is what I say, and I said this on other episodes. And you know me, I buy wine by the case because you drink it every 6 months or a year, and then when it's ready, it's like the best thing ever to show up with, or drink with your friends and your family, and and it's ready.
I hate waiting though.
I hate waiting. Listen, anybody who knows me outside of the show knows I'm not the most patient person in the world.
I'll also tell you that this is drinking great.
It is. I'm like.
So I mean, it doesn't need to.
Let's go over to Lonesome Dove and get a prime rib with this real quick.
They still open?
Oh yeah.
They have truffle?
Yeah. Oh.
That's a great question.
Sponsored by Lonesome Dove. Please.
No. Sponsored by Wanderlust Wine. Paying for lunch.
You guys come on through.
Yeah. Tell them a little bit more about
All right.
and they need to know your background, Sammy, because
Cool.
you're a wine genius as far as I'm concerned. And
I'm like Tyrion from Game of Thrones, I drink and I know some things, So Wanderlust Wine Company right here is the logo. Boop, I'll send you that.
yeah, there you go.
Once again, we're in the heart of downtown, or I would say the gateway of downtown, because we're right off of I-35 and 6th Street. So, like, according to TxDOT, we get like 200,000 vehicles that pass per day in a non-COVID world.
Right.
So
Now
it's
8.
like we're like the first thing people see when they come to Austin, which is phenomenal. And so that was what we were banking on. Of course, 2020 didn't really help us too much there, but we're an urban winery, as people would describe us. We are licensed as a winery. We don't produce much on site. We just have a few carboys here and there. We're actually outsourcing all of our production offsite, custom crush. So in the world of wine, if you guys ever want to get into wine, first you need real estate. There you go.
We
Plug.
can help with that.
Here's our links once again. And first you need real estate, and then you got to develop the land. Then you got to build your winery. So it takes a lot of money. And so they say that a winery is a millionaire or billionaire's game. Like, you really need a lot of money. You need $2 million to make $1 million, right? It's a cliche, but it's very true. So I said, how can I kind of not cheat the system, but figure out another door to get in? And it was here in Texas. If you guys ever, I know you know a little bit about this. So if you ever want to get into the wine game, we have one of the best sets of laws. Even though TABC, everybody has a love-hate relationship with them, we have one of the best set of laws for wineries. Like, we can be all 3 tiers. We can be producer, supplier, distributor, and retailer all at the same time. Whereas anywhere in the U.S., typically you have to be one or the other.
One of the several.
Yeah, and so I come from a small town, McAllen, Texas. Nobody drinks wine down there. And it's
Valley
all about,
represent. Yeah.
It's Bucanas or Chivas. That's what we drink down there. And I was like, I want to get into world wine, but it's really expensive. So urban wineries appeal to me because it's like you have the opportunity to taste different grapes without owning land, and kind of making a decision on like, all right, well, this grape, this lot is doing really well, and I can really see this blending well with maybe this other vineyard over there, unless you're vineyard specific. And you can start playing around with that. And also, like you were saying, like if you have customers that are wanting more of the Duckhorn, you can cater to that versus like you can cater to people that like this Pomerol right here. You can play around with that, and you don't have to say like, unfortunately, I can only do this wine because this is what my vineyard lot will make.
Sure.
And so, yeah. If you guys want to open a winery, come to Texas, invest in the Dripping Springs area, 290, anywhere, Hill Country. What is it, 12 Rivers? 12 Rivers, hook it up.
Yeah.
And so then I was like, okay, not only am I trying to enter the industry, like if you're trying to be a small fish in a big pond or in an ocean, like how can you distinguish yourself? So number one, it was like, all right, well, what's up and coming and also good for the environment? And so keg wines and canned wines were on the rise.
Right.
And keg wines, Anheuser-Busch, like back in the 80s, tried to put wines in keg and failed miserably because they were putting shitty wine in kegs.
And metal kegs, weren't they originally? Yeah, that's not
Which is
gonna
bad
work.
for the wine too. It's
Acid
like,
and metal don't really work.
if it was
Yeah.
stainless steel, like
Yeah.
okay, but beer can be poured out of a brass tap, wine can't. Like you have to be very specific because different things can oxidize wine, and so brass would be like make it taste so nasty and metallic. So finally they started figuring it out back in 2011. Recently this company called Free Flow came in and they were like, hey, let's keg some wine and let's actually talk to some high-end producers like Krub Brothers out of Napa, Trefethen, all these, even Dariush now is kegging wine, which is crazy.
No, never mind. We drank a Trefethen 2 nights ago.
I saw that. It's good.
It's on our Instagram, I think.
it's
Yeah,
good.
yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, and so they're doing their Riesling dry. And so the coolest wine I found in keg thus far, and we're talking about Bordeaux, is a Margaux wine from Chateau Montgravis. So it's not like first growth or second growth, but it's a Cru Bourgeois, which you'll find it here. Typically, they'll put an extra label on the bottom, and that means like these guys were kick-ass for that year.
Margaux and keg.
Yeah,
So
it's really.
I only trust you, honestly.
Yeah.
It's like in my head, I'm like, really? But
So-
like, I'm
Smaller producers
I'll
like,
be in this evening. I'll try it out.
I don't have it right now because it's really expensive.
Is it really?
so
He'll be in this evening. He'll buy the keg.
Yeah.
It's
So-
expensive for keg, but like a bottle costs like $45, which you guys were talking about, like, you're spending under $50. Like, that's an accessible Bordeaux
absolutely.
Margaux wine.
Well, so we're talking about wines and kegs because that's primarily what you do.
Oh yeah. So I got a little sidetracked there. So Wanderlust, we are the largest wine on tap winery in the world, and
In the world.
in the world, post production.
Yeah.
So we're waiting on Guinness to come in and actually award us our largest wine on tap winery.
Guinness World Records?
Yep.
Yeah, not
yep.
the beer Guinness, but world record.
Yeah, man.
It's like Guinness. It
Yeah.
sounds good after the show.
I do love Guinness. It is. So we're just waiting. COVID's not friendly right now for them to
Sure.
come out, and do these things. But yeah, the largest in the world. And on top of that, we're self-pour. So you guys come in and you literally pour your own glass of wine.
Sounds
You
awesome.
tried it last time, and we expanded our
dangerous.
selection a little bit. So
That's awesome.
you also came during
Listen,
the protest.
I'm going to edit this out. Literally,
the day like hell broke loose.
2 blocks from us, it was date night with my wife and I.
Oh yeah.
The rubber bullets, don't worry.
Oh, yeah.
But
You're like, Sammy, is it safe? I'm like,
he didn't
Well-
know. Yeah. He's like, well, like, and anybody answers is well.
Yeah.
Like the next shit that comes out of their mouth is baloney.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, like, I've been to a bunch of urban wineries, Oakland, Livermore, most of them in California, a handful in New York. Sam, I'm not saying this because you're on my show, our show. It's a really cool spot. You did a good job of laying it out and making a really good atmosphere. Like,
So-
check it out.
Long story short, you've got to go check out Wanderlust Winery, right off of 35 and 6th Street,
Yeah,
right there.
right
there it is.
Go
Always
say
for
hey
the
to
logo.
Go say hey to Sammy's. Say you saw him on the Carpe Vinum wine show.
it's good for 25 cents off a glass.
He'll hook you up.
yeah, Wine Wednesdays, which is today.
Oh, yeah.
So Wine Wednesdays, half off wines on tap. So
Even better.
it's a little dangerous.
Well, thanks, Sammy, for coming out today.
man.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean,
This is some
Cheers,
fun.
buddy. Oh,
This was great.
Oh,
Oh man.
Hold on, Cuatro.
Thanks for coming out, Sammy. We really appreciate
absolutely.
it.
We appreciate
having me.
it.
This
Thanks
has
a
been
lot.
great. Merlots have definitely changed my mind about the grape and the wine. Join us next time when we will go over Bordeaux's.
Bordeaux's next episode.
Can I squeeze in one last fun fact?
Yeah,
Please.
So I found out, or I read about the fact that Merlot was actually named after the bird that was eating the grapes. Before they named it, they were like, "Oh, this bird always eats," so they just called the Merlot grape.
Cool.
So
That's
Fun
awesome.
fact.
bird for
Take
talk.
it to the
We're
bank.
good for something. Thanks, everybody. Good
See you
show.
next time. Thank you.
Santé.
Sante.
Carpe Vinum.
Feed wine to the carbs.